Hey everyone, this is going to be a video on the disassembly and reassembly of the Mossberg 590A1. Of course, it's going to be the same process for the 590. So let's go ahead and make sure the gun is clear, which I know mine is, and it is indeed. So the first step of the disassembly process is removing the barrel. It's easiest if you move the bolt back into the gun about an inch to an inch and a half. So just about there. Just leaving it open, and at the front of the gun we're going to go ahead and unscrew the cap on the magazine tube. Now my spring is going to come out, but new from the factory I believe there's a little insert in there preventing the spring from just falling out like this, but if yours does, just remove the magazine spring to prevent any damage from it. I also have a little sling plate here that I'll also remove. And now there should be nothing holding in the barrel to the gun, so you should be able to just slide it forward and out from there. So again, this is the heavy barrel of the A1 version. That comes right off the gun very easily. From here, we're going to go to the receiver portion of the gun and remove all the action parts. So the first thing we'll have to do is push out a pin on the side of the gun here. So this pin right here, which sits above the trigger guard, holds the entire trigger assembly into the receiver. So we're just going to push that through. It shouldn't be too difficult. I'm just using an Allen key. And of course, put that aside. And from here, your trigger assembly can be pulled out of the receiver by just pulling the back portion out, so kind of pivoting it downwards and out of the gun. This is easiest to do if you flip the gun upside down, which we will do now. So flipping the gun upside down like this, we can just pull straight up from the back first and then pivoting it out from the front. So this is your trigger assembly, and it is under spring tension right now. So you can hold the hammer back with your thumb and pull the trigger and just let it come forward if you want to release that spring tension. And we'll put that aside there. So now inside the receiver, you're going to see two bars that may kind of come loose by themselves because the only thing holding them into the receiver is that trigger assembly. One is going to be your cartridge stop and the other is the cartridge interrupter. So the one on the top here is the interrupter there, and these may fall out when you take the trigger assembly out, and the other one on the bottom here is the the cartridge stop. So these two bars, again, they're just kind of floating inside your receiver on the sides, and we're just going to take those out and put them to the side. Now, as you move the fore end of your shotgun, you'll notice that there are essentially three things moving inside there: the slider, the bolt, and the action bars themselves. So this little cutout in the receiver, which is a little bit wider than the rest, we're going to line up the sides of the slider piece so that we can lift it straight up and out of the gun. Just like so. Put that to the side. And now there should be nothing holding your action bars into the gun, so we can actually go ahead and pull the fore end straight off the magazine tube. And here we can see the two action bars with the notches cut in them. And we can just put that aside for now as well. Now the bolt of the gun here is this kind of chunky thing you see at the bottom, and we can push that straight through and it should come out the receiver like so. So this is the bolt, the 500 series bolt from Mossberg. The last thing in here is the elevator, which is this piece here that just pivots up and down. There are two tabs in the receiver here that it pivots on, one on either side. So it's easiest if you just pull this out of the receiver and squeeze inwards to release the tabs from the receiver, and it should just come straight out like that. And that's it. Those are all your parts of the 590. So to recap, of course, we have the receiver. The magazine tube just threads into there, but usually they have some sort of locking compound on that, so you don't really need to remove that ever unless you're replacing it. We have the elevator. We have the bolt. The little slider piece here. Trigger assembly, of course. The two pieces on the side, the interrupter and the stop. The forend with the action bars attached to it. And of course the barrel and spring, if yours also came out. So that is the 590A1 fully disassembled. Alright, so with our disassembled 590 here, we're going to start with the shell elevator. Again, there's kind of two tabs here we're going to just pinch together and line up with the holes in the receiver. And it's hard to do this right now with the viewfinder in my face. There we go. So the elevator should be able to pivot up and down fairly freely, like that. And we'll leave it in the up position for now. Taking the bolt of the gun here, of course the face with the extractors on the side go towards the front, and this face will go towards the bottom of the gun facing us right now. Before I put it in, it's easier if you push this downwards so it doesn't get hung up on anything. And this channel here is where the shell ejector, I guess, travels through as it moves back and forth in the gun. And that piece is the, hopefully you can see this, the little hook right there inside the receiver, and that again will travel inside the groove right here. So we're going to go ahead and put the bolt back into the receiver of the gun and pushing it all the way back and lining up that groove with the little hook in there. So it should slide in there right now, and we can push the elevator down to kind of cradle the bolt. So hopefully you can see that there. Elevator, just push it all the way down and it'll hug the bolt and keep it aligned a little bit better. Next up is the forend with the action bars, and the action bars will go right into the side of the receiver here. There's two holes, one on either side, of course, and you may have to guide it in with your hand, but it should be pretty straightforward. So we're gonna, of course, come from here and just guide it in and make sure that those action bars don't get hung up on anything. like so. So you should be able to see the action bars come into the receiver and move fairly freely as you move the fore end of the shotgun. So the next thing to install will be this little sliding piece. This face is going to face downwards towards us right now. And there's two things you want to be careful of. This little hook at the front here is going to hook into the little indent right there, this space here of the bolt. And the other thing we're going to have to line up is this notch here, or this tab and this notch will line up with the action bars, this notch here and this tab. So as you move the action bars, it will move the slider, which in turn, because of this hook, will move the bolt. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I find it easiest if we line up the bolt first, so that as you place the slider through this larger opening, it matches up the hook with the indentation. And then as we settle the slider down, we can move the action bars to match the notches with the slider. So go ahead and place it down here. I have the hook in the proper indentation, and I'm going to move the action bars here to match up with the slider. So it should look like that. It should lay flat. You can see the hooked section sits inside the bolt, and the indentations of the action bars match up with the slider. So as you move the fore end back and forth while applying downwards pressure to everything, it should move all three pieces simultaneously, which it does. So that is the slider. I pushed it a little bit more forward to just hold it into place. From here, we're going to put the two little bars, the interrupter and the stopper. They can only really go in one way. This here, the cartridge stop, we'll put in first, and these tabs will face the top of the gun like so. And again, there's just a little groove inside there that it'll sit on, like so. And the cartridge interrupter here has a little tab that it pivots on that you can match up with the hole in the receiver, and they'll just sit on the sides like so. Next up, we're going to put the trigger assembly back in. Now, of course, we release the spring tension, so we're just going to push the hammer all the way back until it clicks into place. And we're going to pivot it downwards, getting the front started first into the receiver. Now, I would suggest holding the bars that we just put into the receiver on the sides so they're not slipping down as you push this into the gun, so nothing gets caught up. So we're going to get the front face started first, and then we should be able to just push the rear of it all the way into the gun. And now you can release the bars, and they should be held in with the trigger assembly. Of course, we need to put our pin back into place into the hole there. Just line it up first and push the pin back in. Like so. Alright, last thing to do is replace the barrel onto the gun. So again, leaving about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of space with the bolt, we should be able to just slide our barrel over the magazine tube and into the receiver. Like so. And now if your magazine spring came out, when you remove the cap, you can go ahead and replace that. I'll also put my sling plate attachment back on, and we're going to go ahead and just cap it off with the threaded cap, of course, and tighten that down nice and tight. And there we have the reassembled 590A1. Of course, do a quick function check. Make sure that, of course, as you manipulate the fore end, everything is moving inside as it should, so the bolt is moving freely. The slide ejector, of course, is moving as it should, and that the safety still works. It's on safe right now. Doesn't fire. Take it off safe. Seems to work fine. So that is the general disassembly and reassembly of the 590. Thanks for watching, guys.